a Sagicor Bank savings account from anywhere. Go online and open yours today.
The time by Sagicor Bank is
CVM News at 7 headlines Tuesday, courtesy of Heart NSTA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Hey, what I want?
Hi, I am Candy Pang.
What I want?
What a guan?
That I want pa. What I want? What I want?
What a one! Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
That I want pa. What I want?
CVM News at 7 headlines Tuesday, courtesy of Heart NSTA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
Tonight in CVM News at 7, abolish it. Business mogul Michael Lee Chin renews call for abolition of asset tax and calls for rebate. Shameful. Opposition lashes government over continued NHT withdrawals to support national budget. And success. Transport Minister talks up progress of rural school bus program. Later in our technology feature Tech Pulse, AI slowing down Gen Z. Parents warned too. While in sports, two-man bobsleigh team ends 22nd at Winter Olympics.
CVM News at 7 headlines Tuesday, courtesy of Heart NSTA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
CVM News at 7 Tuesday, brought to you by
the KFC value menu. That's your thinking chicken. Get the famous bowl combo for just $640.
From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7. It's Tuesday, February 17, 2026. I'm Nika Lewis. Thank you so much for joining us. Up first this evening, CVM News understands that 2 people are now in police custody following a major operation at the FedEx Shipment Center on Halfway Tree Road in St. Andrew. With more, here's Giovanni Dennis.
Well, Nika, the operation is still ongoing. I got underway earlier today and it involves members of the Firearms and Narcotics Investigation Division, FNID, the K9 Division and officers from the St. Andrew Central Police. Now, this breaking story is continuing at the moment, and our sources tell us that the operation stems from intelligence received about individuals allegedly using the courier service to transport illicit drugs. Now, law enforcement teams are seen conducting searches at the location with drug-sniffing dogs deployed as part of the exercise. Now, it is not clear what quantities of contraband were seized during the operation, but we can confirm, and sources have told us, that contraband has been found. Now, the identities of the two individuals taken into custody have not been released, and investigations remain ongoing. Of course, CVM News will continue to provide updates on this developing story, and teams are en route to that location. Nika.
All right, thank you, Gio. And we move now to a CVM News exclusive. It takes away from our credibility. Business mogul Michael Lee Chin is calling on the government to remove the asset tax currently imposed on some financial institutions like banks and insurance companies. Mr. Lee Chin argues what was meant to be a temporary measure is continuing with, quote, no end in sight, and is making Jamaica unattractive to potential investors and a burden to taxpayers. Here again is Giovanni Dennis.
It was agreed that it would have been on for 3 years. It's still on, and there is no end in sight.
Chairman of the NCB Financial Group, Michael Lee Chin, criticizing the government's continued imposition of asset tax on banks, insurance companies, and financial services institutions. The asset tax was imposed on the value of assets held by some financial institutions as a temporary revenue-raising measure in 2013 and was to last for only 3 years. It's been 13. The tax brings in some $6 to $8 billion annually. Mr. Lee Chin is not only calling for an abolition of the tax, but a rebate to 2015 when it was originally supposed to expire.
Well, an abolition is the first step. Really, the right thing to do was to go back to 2015 and rebate all the taxes that were paid. That's the right thing to do.
But such a rebate is unlikely.
Whether it's unlikely or not, we're talking about right and wrong. Unlikely or not, that's not the relevance here. Is what is relevant. We as a country, if we say we're going to do something, we have to do it because it takes away from our credibility.
He argues continuing taxes like the asset tax makes Jamaica uninvestable and unattractive to investors and pushes back against the suggestion that big businesses want to avoid taxes. My viewers will be watching on and saying, well, you're making millions, billions of dollars in the case of NCB. Why not pay the tax?
Well, we pay enough taxes. NCB is the largest taxpayer in Jamaica. It's not a matter that we don't want to pay the tax or we don't want to pay tax. We pay taxes that are legislated and that should be paid. But in this case, the tax was brought on for 3 years.
He believes financial companies are being unfairly targeted.
It's not that we don't want to pay taxes, but the financial services industry is a fat target to be taxed, and there's a problem because whenever we raise taxes in Jamaica, we make Jamaica less competitive globally because taxation is a globally competitive variable.
Mr. Lee Chin was speaking with the CVM News in an exclusive interview. Giovanni Dennis, CVM News.
And Giovanni is still in studio with me to give a tease of what more to expect from that Michael Lee Chin interview.
Well, Nika, it was a tell-all interview. Essentially, the NCB chairman was frank in his assessment of the state of affairs in the country, and also personally, he addressed mounting calls for him to step down as the head of NCB, concerns as well about debt repayment. We saw that story that we broke earlier in January as well, where he paid it late. It was supposed to be paid on December 31 last year. It was paid on January 23. He spoke about that. He also spoke about the need for tougher penalties for white-collar criminals of a certain background in Jamaica. How do we, in layman's terms right now, stop what you're calling the manipulation of the stock market, the greedy players in the financial industry who are being unfair? How do we stop those people?
We have to make sure that if you don't respect the law, we chop your foot off. It's as simple as that. So people realize laws are there for a reason and they should be respected, irrespective of who you are.
Of course, Nika, we'll have more in CVM News at 7 on Wednesday and on Thursday. Of course, the full interview can be seen Thursday and Friday in our current affairs program, Lead Story.
All right. Thank you so much, Gio. Well, in other news, disappointing and shameful. How opposition leader Mark Golding is describing the government's recent announcement to continue withdrawing $11.4 billion a year from the National Housing Trust to help fund the national budget for another 5 years. Mr. Golding maintains that the opposition will not support the request and intends to push back, arguing that funds from the NHT should be used for the benefit of its contributors. Amoy Harriet tells us more.
Governments, both past and present, have been pulling funds from the National Housing Trust NHT for years. Over the past decade alone, some $114 billion has been redirected into the national budget. The NHT Act has been amended 3 times to allow for these transfers. First in 2013 by the then Portia Simpson Miller-led administration, in 2017 and again in 2020, both times by the Andrew Holness-led administration. But for as long as the state has been tapping into the NHT, critics have been arguing against it. Some say the national budget diverts money away from housing solutions, delays benefits to contributors, and undermines the trust's original purpose. Opposition leader Mark Golding, in a video posted to social media on Tuesday, said given Jamaica's current housing crisis, it's now time for the government to source funds elsewhere.
Doesn't Jamaica have a critical problem with affordable housing? Aren't Jamaican people, especially young people, struggling to find a way of acquiring their own home? The NHT is the vehicle that should be doing that. But when you keep taking the money out of it in such a large amounts, you can't fulfill that mandate.
Mr. Golding also pointed to a 2013 promise by then opposition leader Andrew Holness, who committed to ring-fencing NHT funds and amending the law to ensure they would not be used for any other purpose. The opposition says this recent decision is a breach of that commitment. He says it's especially troubling given the passage of Hurricane Melissa less than 4 months ago.
And we think it doesn't make sense anyway, even if you were going to do it for 1 year, because of the problems due to Melissa and trying to work out how to fund the budget, that would have been bad and not so bad. But to say now that you're going to extend it for 5 more years, when housing is such a problem in the country, what about the 40,000 people who lost their homes in Melissa? The NHT should be playing a much bigger role in getting them back on their feet in new housing. And the 90,000 additional people who had severe damage to their roofs and so on.
The opposition leader says he will be promising what he calls a more people-centric approach.
So we don't support this, and I certainly am very disappointed that they are coming with it. And, I'm going to try my best to persuade them to think again, because there's no way we can support 5 more years of taking the resources of this level out of the National Housing Trust.
Amoy Harriet for C News.
In the meantime, State Minister Senator Abka Fitz-Henley has dismissed criticism from opposition leader Mark Golding over the government's continued drawdown of funds from the National Housing Trust for budgetary support. He describes Golding's comments as opportunistic and the latest example of what he terms vulgar politics, adding that the opposition leader cannot credibly condemn a practice his own party once pursued. Meanwhile, while acknowledging that more work remains to be done, Senator Fitz-Henley is defending the government's track record in housing, insisting that the administration continues to take steps to expand access to affordable housing for Jamaicans across the island. Meanwhile, unions representing public sector workers are pushing back against the new tax on motor vehicles imported under duty concessions. The finance minister says the 20% duty concession remains, but workers will now have to pay GCT, adding significant costs. Javoni Hamilton reports.
Last Thursday, Finance Minister Favour Williams told Parliament that public sector workers will have to start paying GCT on vehicles imported under their 20% duty concession. The news has not gone down well with unions, which say the change was unexpected and significantly increases the cost of importing a vehicle.
It took us completely by surprise, and especially because the issue of duty concession itself had arisen while the compensation review was being conducted. At that point, there were attempts to remove the duty concession, and we had meetings with then Minister of Finance, and he indicated at that point that the government was not intending at that time to remove the duty concession. So we expected, therefore, that if there was going to be any change to the arrangement, that we certainly would have been made aware before.
While the duty concession itself remains, the addition of GCT is effectively an extra 15% that workers must now pay.
It means that it will send up the overall cost of importing the vehicle. It is certainly now going to be affecting the ability to carry out their duties, because if they are unable to purchase the vehicles that are required, then it is naturally going to affect the ability to carry out the work.
Unions have also raised concerns about the negotiation process, expressing a loss of confidence in the financial secretary to lead discussions.
Traveling officers in particular feel that they have come out of the compensation review with the wrong end of the stick, so to speak, because they were the ones who primarily received the minimum increase of 30-35%, and now for this now to be added is like almost an insult to injury. While we recognize that the government needs to be able to fund its budget, we don't think that this is an appropriate means of funding the budget, because you're at the end of the day going to be affecting the ability to carry out the very duties that these persons are employed to carry out.
As public sector workers weigh the impact of this new tax, unions are calling on the government to revisit the decision and address their concerns. Reporting for CVM News, I'm Giovanni Hamilton.
There's more to come after the break.
Chicken, mega deal, super chicken, mega deal.
The KFC value menu has you thinking chicken. Get the famous bowl combo for just $640. KFC.
Guess what me do? What you do? Me go check me prostate.
No, seriously? Me nah do that.
Remember say that pops drop out from me have to take it serious. You can't just do the blood test but better safe than sorry. So me do the full package. Plus the NHF card help pay for the PSA test. Biggs, you're 40 the earlier the better. Guys, me know you still want fire on all cylinder.
NHF is here for health. NHF is here for you. Employers, once a month, you have the power to shape Jamaica's future. By paying your hard 3% contribution, you're not just contributing, you're investing in people, in skills, in our economy. Your hard contribution trains working-age Jamaicans, aligns programs with workforce needs, and secures our future. That's not just contribution, it's transformation. Contribute to heart and to your future.
Tune in to Lead Story, weekdays at 6 p.m. Hosted by Jody Ann Quarry.
Brought to you by Horizon, a new loan product from Access Financial Services.
Thanks so much for staying with us. Still in the local news, the government says schools across Jamaica are reporting marked improvements in punctuality and attendance following the rollout of Phase 1 of the Rural School Bus Program. Transport Minister Darrell Vaz made the disclosure at a press briefing on Tuesday. Our reporter Akeem Aret was there. He joins me live.
Well, Nika, there was much controversy surrounding the procurement of the 110 school buses the country received in Phase 1 of the National Rural School Bus Program. Well, today, after all that controversy, Transport Minister Darrell Vaz announced improvements in students getting to school on time and more students being present. We now hear more. A 95% increase in attendance, 90% of students arriving to school on time, and an almost 100% improvement in school safety. The update presented by Transport Minister Darrell Vaz Tuesday as he outlined progress of Phase 1 of the Rural School Bus Program, which has so far seen the procurement of 110 buses.
These early indicators demonstrate the program's positive social impact. Despite data limitations, operational observations indicate steady growth in ridership since the program's launch in September 2025, and increased utilization has been observed. As more routes became operational, additional buses were deployed, and public awareness and school levels coordination improved over the course of the term.
The buses are currently serving 74 routes across the island, transporting students to more than 300 schools. However, the Transport Minister admits there have been some challenges, including traffic accidents involving the buses.
We also see that we have had some accidents. Thankfully, no fatalities. One serious injury of a passenger vehicle that collided in the bus. And we were able to get immediate footage of the bus using the technology on the bus with cameras on the outside of the bus and on the inside, which obviously helps the police to be able to do their investigation much quicker.
Since its inception, the service has operated free of cost, but as of February 1, students enrolled in the program are now required to pay a subsidized fare of $50 per trip. More than 11,000 students have registered, over 10,000 have been validated, more than 6,000 bus cards issued to schools, with another 5,000 ready for distribution. But according to Owen Ellington, Managing Director of the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, challenges remain.
Unfortunately, based on the records that we have, and it's on the system designed and implemented by our contractors to monitor the fare collection arrangement, just over 1,900 students have been issued a card in hand, which is significantly lower than we would have liked it to be at this stage. And even of that small number, it's just about 550, 60 or so students that have actually put funds on their card.
Meanwhile, Director of Safety and Security in the Education Ministry, Richard Troop, is urging parents and guardians to play their part.
Parents and guardians, we can't do this without you. Your children must be registered to utilize the service. The access cards are important, must be in the hands of our nation's children. So the first hurdle is for parents, guardians to ensure that the children who are attending rural school and traveling on those particular major corridors served by the buses are actually registered to participate in the program.
Phase 2 of the Rural School Bus Program is now underway and is expected to see the introduction of an additional 100 new buses during the 2026-2027 fiscal year. Reporting for CVM News, I'm Akeem Art.
The prosecution's witness in the Klansman trial continued his testimony in court today, maintaining the same position he did on Monday. The detective sergeant denied that a possible suspect list he created related to the Roger Avenue fatal incident. However, one alias on the list was a standout. Our reporter Carla Ramdeen was in court.
The sixth prosecution witness faced tough questioning today over a list of possible suspects in the September 16, 2017 Roger Avenue Spanish Town fatal shooting, with the defense accusing him of providing misleading evidence. During cross-examination, the witness, who is a detective sergeant with the Major Investigations Division, said he had prepared a possible suspect list but could not confirm whether it was directly related to the murder. The defense pointed out that the entry in his notes followed the Roger Avenue shooting. The witness agreed. The defense further suggested that he had been reluctant in saying whether his possible suspect list related to the Roger Avenue shooting. The defense suggested the detective sergeant misled the court in order to protect himself, but the witness denied the suggestions. The defense then focused on 2 men on the possible suspects list. CVM will refer to them by Jack and Peter. Jack is expected to give critical evidence in the trial. The witness said he had spoke to Jack on 3 occasions regarding other incidents in Spanish Town, but not about the Roger Avenue shooting, and could not recall his real name. The defense suggested he was lying, but the witness explained that he believed Jack was dead and only recently learned a man with the same alias was involved in the case. The trial is set to continue on Thursday. Carla Ramdeen, CVM News.
Take a deeper look. This week, we take a deeper look at artificial intelligence and hear why some experts are cautioning against the seemingly easier way of helping children with their homework, or why parents are told to take a pause on less. Welcome to Tech Pulse. Inside Tech Pulse this week. Experts say for more than 200 years, each new generation scored higher on intelligence tests than the one before it. That trend may have just broken. New research suggests Gen Z could be the first generation to show lower measured IQ scores than their parents. The biggest drops aren't about raw ability, but skills like memory, reading comprehension, and long-term focus. Researchers point to constant screen exposure, endless notifications, and short-form content reshaping how attention and information processing work. Scientists stress this isn't about calling a generation less intelligent. It's about understanding how a digital world is changing the way human brains develop, learn, and retain knowledge, and what that means for the future. But that's not all. Experts worldwide are urging parents to put a pause on AI use, especially when it comes to children's health. According to CNBC researcher Kalisa Leslie Miller, a doctoral student in clinical child psychology at the University of Kansas, in a study on AI use and some 116 parents, most parents didn't know the difference between AI-generated medical advice and actual verified expert advice online. She also reasons that problems arise when parents use AI for high-risk decisions. These include medication choices or urgent symptoms, but AI can make some mistakes, known as hallucinations. Thus, pushing those who know more about the matter to encourage verification before adopting what ChatGPT and others tell them to do as gospel. So here are some pros and cons on use of artificial intelligence.
It can also save time on tedious research, letting students focus on understanding rather than just gathering information. In a best-case scenario, AI becomes a guide, showing the how and why, not just the answer. But here come the cons. The same AI that explains can also tempt students to simply copy-paste entire answers without thinking. If the mindset becomes, why learn it when AI can do it for me? Critical thinking and problem-solving skills start to weaken. Over time, students might struggle with independent work, creativity, and the persistence it takes to solve difficult problems. And let's not forget, AI can make mistakes. Without the skill to verify information, kids may confidently hand in wrong answers. So, how do we make sure AI is a tool for learning, not a shortcut for avoiding it? It starts with guidance and mindset. Parents and teachers can encourage kids to use AI as a study buddy instead of a homework machine. For example, instead of asking AI, write my essay on climate change, they could ask, give me key points and sources for an essay on climate change. Instead of, solve this math problem.
And there you have it. Responsible use of AI for parents and children. That's it for Tech Pulse. Remember, the future is now. And for a preview of Lead Story Prime, we now join Jody and Quarry.
Thanks, Nika. We're having a discussion inside Lead Story Prime today about the new budget, and we're calling it the 2% solution. The current situation is that we have a new budget that only covers 2% of the $1.8 trillion that Jamaica has experienced in losses thanks to Hurricane Melissa. It doesn't cover enough, though. So why a budget with these figures and with big revenue items? We'll talk about that and dig into the numbers at 8 inside Lead Story Prime.
Right. Must see TV. For now, CVM News at 7 continues after the break.
Value menu has you thinking chicken. Get the famous combo for just $640.
The time by KFC is
7:30.
Chicken, mega deal, super chicken, mega deal.
The KFC value menu has you thinking chicken. Get the famous combo for just $640. KFC.
Do it for your best life. Go check your HIV status. So keep your life trending, no pretending. Me I tell yourself do it for you, do it for you. Every time you are link with a condom, coulda Ozzy, coulda wife, coulda be a random. Condom connect and protect your profile. Be your own fan. Do it for your best life. Do it for your best life. Don't put yourself at risk. Condom connect every time. Do it for your best life.
It's 8 a.m. and Mr. Thompson can't find chalk. Or his dignity. Is white squalid? Meanwhile, on site, error, a mash up concrete. Or so it seems. Wait, I can't embellish that. It's almost that time for Ashley's belly to clock out. Don't get creative with your hunger. Solve it with mothers.
Mommy, ice cream.
Even the little ones get hungry too. Mothers, all day delicious. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Welcome back. It's now time for the Business Report with Joel Crosskill.
A number of things to share with you in the Business Report today, as the controlling shareholder and chairman of the NCB Financial Group, Michael Lee Chin, lamented the lingering effect of an ad valorem tax, which he says has cost the entity hundreds of millions of US dollars since its acknowledged temporary implementation 12 years ago, and caused added abrasion to the potential deployment of capital at both ends of the shareholder spectrum.
One massive friction that hasn't been talked about enough in Jamaica. But we're going to talk about it today because it affects every single shareholder of every single financial institution in Jamaica. And by extension, it affects every single consumer. It affects how quickly we grow this country. And the big elephant in the country, in the room, is asset tax.
The asset tax imposed on deposit-taking institutions like banks, securities dealers, and insurance companies at a rate of 0.25% in 2013 was, as of 2021, reduced to 0.125%.
So asset tax was brought on as a temporary measure in 2012. Temporary for 3 years. It's still here. So what does that mean to us as shareholders? Well, guess how much NCB has paid in asset tax since 2012. It is 194 million US dollars since 2012 in US dollar terms. $194 million that did not go to shareholders.
Of which Lee Chin remains the largest, having successfully completed a $94 million US bond payment to secure his controlling stake less than a month prior to the 2026 AGM.
The controlling shareholder, 52%. What is 52% of 194 million? What is that? Exactly $100 million. Okay? So that's what AIC, the controlling shareholder, did not get over the last 12 years. Okay? Now, we all know, because the most advertised number in Jamaica is 94. Who don't know 94, right? That is the amount of money AIC had to come up with December the 31st. 94. Is 94 less than 100? Pardon me? No, you can see the effect. No, you can see the effect of asset tax.
The NCBFG chairman says he will continue to press the issue.
So anything to do with that's going to affect shareholders' value, we have to talk about it. That's why I'm talking about it today, because it has never been spoken about here. As of today, it will be spoken about until it is resolved.
And speaking of resolve, NCBFG Group CEO Robert Almeida spoke to the resurgence of the largest financial group by assets in Jamaica through what has been a challenging period.
But before you can move forward with confidence, you must first close the past with honesty. In late 2023, the business was under strain and required decisive corrective action. The signs were clear. Our debt was rising while our equity was falling. And second, a significant portion of our borrowings was actually maturing within a very short time frame. So we were approaching what was called a debt cliff. At the time, I described our task as trying to renovate and retool a 747 while it was still in the air. And we did so against the backdrop of hurricanes, geopolitical disruption, and global economic uncertainty. 2 years later, I can say with confidence that NCB Financial Group closed fiscal year 2025 in one of the strongest positions in its history. Over the past 2 years, our consolidated net profit increased from $7.7 billion in 2023 to $36.9 billion in 2025, the highest in our history.
Group Chief Financial Officer Malcolm Sadler confirmed the results.
For the financial year, the group recorded consolidated net profit of $36.9 billion, and that's a 71% increase, or $15.3 billion over the prior year, September 2024. Consolidated net profit attributable to stockholders, to all of us here, including Chair, attributable to the shareholders, $23.1 billion, representing a 73% or $9.8 billion increase over the prior year.
And that was your business report. I'm Joel Crosskill.
And now for regional and international news with Marshall Hazley.
Things to share with you in the business.
We begin with regional news. Tension is rising in the Caribbean after deadly explosions struck the waters between St. Vincent and St. Lucia on Friday, leaving 2 fishermen dead and sparking urgent questions over regional security. More from DBS TV.
The first blast was reported by fishermen in the southern Grenadines early Friday morning, with a second incident occurring later that day between St.